Everybody's wrong. Rewrote the song. Thoughts become action. Tell me what's happening. What's your mind wrapped around?
Hey guys, so this is going to be my first Q&A, and if you guys like it, then of course I'll do more in the future. Before I get into any questions, I just want to give you a brief idea of what's going on with the footage in the background. Basically, stained by Sharpie fabric markers are currently my favourite brush pen, so I figured I'd write the name. So what you'll see me doing is first drawing it out multiple times to get different letter forms, and then select certain ones that I like from each piece, and then stitch them together in Photoshop, and then drag it into Illustrator and vectorize it all. So I just wanted to give you a bit of an idea of what was going on in the background, and let's get into some questions. So the first question is, how old were you when you first started creating graphics, and why did you get into it? I can't actually remember exactly how old I was when I actually got into graphic design, but I'd say probably about 14, 15 years old, and I'm now 20, so like 5 or 6 years ago. I think it was definitely when I was in school. When I was doing my art GCSE, I actually asked my teacher if I could do a graphic piece instead of a drawing piece or a painting, and he was fine with that, which was pretty cool. So I ended up doing a graphic design sort of piece using Photoshop. But back then I wasn't particularly great, but I did get an A, which was quite cool. And as to why I got into graphic design, I'm not entirely sure what drew me to it. I think it's because I was always using YouTube, and I've always been into like art and just artsy sort of things. So I think it was seeing all these YouTube banners and then watching COD montages back in the day. Like all these 3D graphics just really pulled me into it. So I started off doing like 3D things on Cinema 4D, which a lot of you have probably done before, and just really went from there, to be honest. And the next question is, can you tell us what stuff you're using to record and edit your voice? So to record and edit my voice, I just use Adobe Audition. Next question is, can you make a dank meme? I already have, and I'll put it on screen now. The next question is, where do you get your inspiration and motivation from? So the majority of my inspiration comes from Instagram, both community pages and artists that I follow. So pages like Good Type and Type Gang, Calligraphy Type. There's loads and loads and loads of different community pages for hand lettering. Basically, if you follow some of them pages, they post things quite often from various different artists and tag them in it. So if you like that particular piece, you can go onto that artist's Instagram and have a look at all of his work, which is great. So what I actually have on my Google Chrome browser, I have a folder at the top that says Instagram artists, and I've just simply got a link to particular artists that I like. I also have a folder that's for community pages as well, in case I just want to go and try and find some new artists that I've not seen before. So if you don't use Instagram to find inspiration, I would definitely recommend giving it a go, because it's got to be the best place to find hand lettering inspiration, in my opinion. There's just so many people on there, and so many people are just brilliant at it as well. As for the motivation side, I think that as well comes from mostly Instagram, but as well from you guys when I see your comments and just the feedback that I get on my videos from you guys. That really does help motivate me to continue posting videos on YouTube and obviously continue doing what I do. Next question is, if you weren't a graphic designer, what else would you want to do? This is a tough one, because I really do not have a clue what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing graphic design. Yeah, just before, I think I only really got into graphics and like knew that I wanted to do it towards the end of secondary school. So I would have been about 16. And from there I just sort of went out on a limb and just thought, sack it, I'll do graphics at college and see how that goes. So I ended up doing graphics in college, and I think it was sort of around that point that I realised that I really wanted to do it. So other than that, I have absolutely no idea where I'd be right now if I wasn't doing graphic design. Not a clue. Next question is, would you make your own clothing line? Now this is something that I've actually wanted to do for quite a while, but I've never really gone ahead with it. I mean, I've got a Spreadshirt page, but there isn't a hell of a lot on there. I had a few different pages, but I ended up deleting a lot of them. The current one that I have only has 2 designs on there. They're just the same design but different colours. And I posted it on my Facebook page, which only has like almost 5,000 likes, so it's not got a huge audience. And the response wasn't particularly brilliant, so I didn't really bother putting much more on there. But if you guys on here, since I've got a much larger audience on YouTube, if you guys would be interested in me creating some designs, they're only on Spreadshirt for now, but maybe if it picks up then I could actually afford to get my own printing done and whatnot, but for now it would be on Spreadshirt. So let me know what you guys think of that, and if there's a decent response for it, then I might add some more designs for you guys to look at. The next question is, where did it all start? Like, what made you choose to be a designer, then later shift to do type? I'm not really sure where this came from, to be honest. I think it was just from seeing clothing brands with custom hand lettering logo types. It just really drew me in, because obviously I started YouTube doing like cartoons, which weren't particularly great, but that's how I started on YouTube. And then, I don't know, I think it was just seeing hand letterers, just seeing that logos that they were making. I just really liked the idea of being able to create something, a piece of lettering that was completely unique, and just the styles that I sort of make now are the kind of styles that I always looked at and thought that looks really good. So I think that's probably the turning point from me doing random cartoons and photo montages or whatever to actually go into something that I knew that I wanted to do. And the next question is, are you a self-taught letterer? If not, how did you learn? For hand lettering, I'm completely self-taught, and by that I mean I've not had any workshops, courses or classes on hand lettering. I've simply just been on Instagram and looked at people's work and just basically figured it out myself. So that's partially the reason why I create so many tutorials for hand lettering on YouTube, because when I was trying to figure out how to do everything like these strokes and stuff, I had to just figure all that out from observing and looking at other people's work. On my part, it's basically just a lot of research and just watching loads of different people do their work. So yeah, I'd kind of consider myself to be self-taught in that field. And that kind of goes the same with the programs as well, like Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, After Effects. All these programs I've learned, everything that I know in these programs I've learned from experimenting or watching tutorials on YouTube. I've not had any courses or workshops for any of these. They don't actually offer, well, they do offer them in university, but it's not part of the actual course. You have to go like after hours to go to these particular workshops for whatever program you want. But since I already know enough to be able to use them, I didn't feel the need to go to any of these classes. I'd say I'm pretty much self-taught in the physical side of everything that I do with graphics, but knowledge-wise, of course, I've learned a lot of that I've learned a portion of that from university. The next question is, how do you balance university and freelance, and how long did it take you to practice hand lettering before you became good at hand lettering? So when I'm in university, I don't actually take on freelance projects because I simply can't handle the workload of juggling both freelance and university projects. It's just undoable for me, because the university projects do take up quite a lot of time, and you do have to dedicate pretty much most of your time to actually working on them. So you don't get a hell of a lot of time to obviously work on completely irrelevant projects like freelance, for example. As for the hand lettering, I would say, although a lot of people will probably disagree with me because a lot of you seem to really like the lettering work that I've been doing over like the past year and a half, 2 years, but I'd probably only say that my hand lettering's got to a point where I think it's good, probably at the start of 2016. If you look at my Instagram, you'll probably see a huge increase in the quality of lettering that I've been putting out since the start of 2016. Because I've been looking back at my work, and I've just not really, I've just been scrolling through my Instagram page, and I've been looking at it, and I just didn't think it was all that good. Like, comparing it to other people, such as like David Milan, if some of you know who he is on Instagram, just looking at how consistently good his work is, everything on there is just brilliant. So I was just looking at mine and just sort of comparing it and thinking it's not how good it should be. So I just decided to only start posting the best stuff, and I've really started to try and like up my game with my lettering, both hand lettering and the digital side. So when it comes to vectorizing it as well, I've really started to try and focus on getting that to look much better. The next question is, what do you want to do after university? So I've never actually had a job anywhere, like a proper job, like say working behind a checkout at a store. I've never had a job at a studio, so nothing design related other than obviously freelance work and doing YouTube videos. So I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to go after university or what's going to happen, but I think I probably want to work in a design studio, of course, but preferably working somewhere around hand lettering. So I'm not really sure how this would work or if it could work or whatever, but that's what I'm hoping for, so I'll see what happens in the future. The next question has quite a few different questions within it. So the first question is, do you use contracts for your freelance work? And I do sometimes, and I don't sometimes. It depends on the client that I'm working with. I won't go into the whole payment process and all that stuff. But yeah. The next question is, what do you do if clients react mean after you told them your prices? So if I tell a client my price and they react mean, and they just say like, oh, this is way overpriced, blah blah, and start giving me loads of crap for it, then I just basically ignore them, because there's no point in arguing with them, because if they're gonna be like that after you tell them the price, then they're obviously not very old or not very mature, so just completely ignore them. The next question is, how do you come up with the prices for your work? Now, a lot of people won't agree with how I do this, because a lot of people say you should charge by hour and you shouldn't have fixed prices, but a lot of the time frames for the projects that I do for people vary quite a bit. So if I charged by hour, then some of them would just be ridiculous prices that obviously they couldn't afford. So I just have a fixed price for my logos and logo types and lettering. They're all between a certain price range. The next question is, do you like the place you're living right now? And right now I'm living at home, because I don't move out again until September to go to university, so yeah, I think it's fine living here. Next question is, countries you'd love to travel to. So the only place I'd really like to travel to at the moment is probably America, and more specifically New York. I don't really know why, but I've just always wanted to visit America, and New York is probably where I want to live when I'm older, and once I've got enough money to do that, I probably will. Next question is, do you have any advice you would give to hand lettering beginners? So I've said this a few times, but it's basically just practice, practice, practice. And I know that's probably not going to be very helpful to a lot of people, because they'll just shrug that off and won't really listen to it, but that's what people always used to say to me, just keep practicing and practicing and practicing, you will improve. Practicing is literally the groundwork of everything. You need to just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, and just over time you will just improve. It's as simple as that. So don't just think I'm just being cliche by saying practice, 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 because that literally is what you need to do. The next question is, what do you think is the best way to grow social media, mainly Instagram and YouTube? Instagram, I think it's just using relevant hashtags to your work, not using stuff that I see quite a lot, like hashtag like for like and hashtag share for share and all that crap. Don't do that if you're trying to promote your work, because all you're doing there is promoting it to a completely irrelevant audience that aren't interested in your work whatsoever. They're just simply there to like your work, to get a like back. You need to be using tags that are relevant, so like obviously graphic tags, hand lettering tags, blah blah, all that sort of stuff. And you can use the tags for these community pages, because each page tends to have their own hashtag. So like good type, for example, if you put hashtag good type, when they're looking for work to post on their page, they will go to their tag page and find work that's been tagged. So if you go to my Instagram and look at the posts that I make, you'll see that I have a list of tags first, which are all different community pages, and then I have a list of tags that are like just lettering based. So go check that out if you want to see the sort of tags that I'm using. And as for growing on YouTube, it's kind of difficult to say, because I'm not entirely sure how you would go about just growing on YouTube, since it's a difficult thing to do. I mean, I've had my channel since mid to late 2012, so I've had it for quite a while now, and my channel isn't particularly huge. I mean, for a design channel it's doing okay, but it's not like a huge channel. Like gaming channels, they can grow at a ridiculous rate. Like you could make a channel this year and probably overtake me. But yeah, I wouldn't worry so much about trying to grow on YouTube, because it is a hard place to grow, and overall it doesn't get you that much exposure unless you have like a decent following. So the following that I have, like 69,000 as of recording this, that's a considerable amount of people, but that's 4 years in the making to get that many, and obviously a lot of work, because videos take much longer than making just a piece of type to post on Instagram. So growing on Instagram is definitely a much faster way to grow overall, and probably will get you more exposure in the long run. So I'd definitely consider using Instagram if you don't. And the next question is, what do you think is your biggest strength? I'm not really sure how to answer this, but I'd say hand lettering, since I think that's probably what I'm best at out of all the different design related things that I do. I'd say hand lettering is definitely what I'm best at and what I'm most passionate about. So yeah, I'd probably say hand lettering. Next question is, do you practice every day? And this sort of goes back to what I was saying before, and yes, I do practice every day. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, just try and get that little bit of work in every single day, just because you need to stay consistent. And just keep working at it and keep working at it. And if you start slacking off and missing like 3 or 4 days here and there, you're obviously not going to grow as fast. So if you work every day, even if it's just writing 1 word a day, just something just to keep it fresh in your mind, it's definitely worth doing it. The last question I'm going to answer is, were you frustrated when you first started lettering and it didn't look as good as you wanted it to? So when I was actually doing the lettering, say like 1.5 to 2 years ago, every piece that I created, I'd look at it and think, yeah, that's good, that. But looking back at it now, I can obviously see huge mistakes in it and huge flaws, and I'd say that's a good trait, being able to look back at your work, because that way you know that you've improved, if you can look back and see like mistakes in your old work. So at the time of actually making them, I wouldn't say it was frustrating because I thought they looked good. But I think there were times where I'd just sit there and I'd sort of get like a creative sort of block, and I just didn't feel like I was improving. And I'm sure a lot of you have had this experience as well. But you've just got to keep working and work through it, and you will improve. Like, clearly you do. I mean, I've had this issue multiple times, but I've definitely improved from 2 years ago. I've improved a hell of a lot. So yeah, I wouldn't get frustrated when each piece isn't looking as good as you'd want it to be. You've just got to keep doing it and you'll improve. So this is the end of my first Q&A. Let me know what you guys think of it, and if you want to see more of them, feel free to ask some more questions in the comments down below. And if you do, I'll probably get around to making it in maybe a few months or so, just leave a bit of a gap between them. Or if you want it sooner, then let me know and I'll make a new one quite soon. Apologies if I didn't use your question. Don't be offended, I just had to pick a selection of questions. Obviously I couldn't do them all, there was like 150 comments in total, so thank you so much for watching, guys.